Hi guys, this is Mac Rear talking to you again. I haven't talked to you recently and I apologize for that. Yesterday was my mom's birthday. It would have been her 76th if she were still with us. And it caused me thinking of one of her favorite books. A book that was a favorite actually of both my mom and my dad, and an author who was a favorite. Edgar Rice Burroughs. Now, normally when we think of Edgar Rice Burroughs, we think of the Tarzan series, which is great books. But my mom was particularly partial to the Mars series. In the Mars series, we follow a man who is of indeterminate age. He had fought in the Civil War, and now at the turn of the century, 1900, he is still young. And he is pursued one night by Apaches who have discovered that he is working a hidden mine. He escapes from the Apaches, climbs into a cave, and awakens in the cave after sees his lifeless body before him, and then awakens on Mars. He doesn't know why he knows it's Mars, but he knows it's Mars. He's picked up by the Green Men of Mars after a fight, and they put him in an ancient city where they are temporarily camped, and they give him a Martian guard dog to watch over him and make sure he doesn't escape. The Martian guard dog he describes as the size of a Shetland pony, with a head that looks like a frog, 10 legs, and multiple jaws filled with razor-sharp teeth. He has escaped the dog, come back because the dog is chasing him faster than he can run, and hides in one of the windows of one of the in the lost city. The fight that won friends. The thing, which more nearly resembled our earthly men than it did the Martians I had seen, held me pinioned to the ground with one huge foot, while it jabbered and gesticulated at some answering creature behind me. The other, which was evidently its mate, soon came towards us, bearing a mighty stone cudgel, with which it evidently intended to brain me. The creatures were about 10 or 15 feet tall, standing erect, and had, like the green Martians, an intermediary set of arms or legs midway between their upper and lower limbs. Their eyes were close together and non-protruding. Their ears were high set, but more laterally located than those of the Martians, with their snouts and teeth were strikingly like those of our African gorilla, although they were not unlovely when viewed in the comparison with the green Martians. The cudgel was swinging in the arc, which ended upon my upturned face, when a bolt of myriad-legged horror hurled itself through the doorway full upon the beast of my executioner. And with a shriek of fear, the ape, which held me, leaped through the open window, but its mate closed in a terrific death struggle with my preserver, which was nothing less than my faithful watch-thing. I cannot bring myself to call it such a hideous creature, a dog. As quickly as possible, I gained my feet and backed against the wall. I witnessed such a battle as it is vouchsafed few beings to see. The strength, agility, and blind ferocity of these two creatures is approached by nothing known to earthly man. My beast had an advantage in his first hold, having sunk his mighty fangs far into the breast of its adversary, but the great arms and paws of the ape, backed by muscles far transcending those of Martian men I had seen, had locked the throat of my guardian and were slowly choking out his life. And bending back his head and neck upon his body, where I momentarily expected the former to fall limp at the end of a broken neck. In accomplishing this, the ape was tearing away the entire front of the breast, and which was held in the vice-like grip of the powerful jaws. Back and forth upon the floor they rolled, neither emitting a sound of fear or pain. Presently, I saw the great eyes of my beast bulging completely from their sockets, and blood flowing from its nostrils. That he was weakening perceptibly was evident. And also, so was the ape, whose struggles were growing momentarily less. Suddenly I came to myself, and with that strange instinct, which seems ever to prompt me to my duty, I seized the cudgel, which had fallen to the floor at the commencement of the battle, and swinging it with all the power of my earthly arms, I crashed it full upon the head of the ape, crushing his skull as though it had been an eggshell. Scarcely had that blow descended when I was confronted with a new danger. The ape's mate, recovered from its first shock of terror, had returned to the scene of the encounter by way of the interior of the building. I glimpsed him just before he reached the doorway, and the sight of him now roaring as he perceived his lifeless fellow stretched upon the floor and frothing at the mouth in the extremity of his rage filled me, I must confess, with dire forebodings. I am ever willing to stand and fight when the odds are not too overwhelmingly against me. But in this instant I perceived neither glory nor profit in pitting my relative puny strength against the iron muscles and brutal ferocity of this enraged denizen of an unknown world. In fact, the only outcome from such an encounter, so far as I might be concerned, seemed sudden death. I was standing near the window, and I once knew that once in the street, I might gain the plaza and safety before the creature could overtake me. At least there was a chance for safety in flight. Again, almost certain death should I remain and fight, however, desperately. It is true, I held the cudgel, but what could I do with it against his 4 great arms? Even should I break one of them with my first blow, for I figured that he would attempt to ward off the cudgel, he would reach out and annihilate me with the others before I could recover from the second attack. In the instant that these thoughts passed through my mind, I had turned to make for the window, but my eyes, lighting on the form of my erstwhile guardian, threw all thoughts of flight to the 4 winds. He lay gasping upon the floor of the chamber, his great eyes fastened upon me in what seemed a pitiful appeal for protection. I could not withstand that look, nor could I, on second thought, have deserted my rescuer without giving as good an account of myself on his behalf as he had on mine. Without more ado, therefore, I turned to meet the charge of the infuriated bull ape. He was now too close upon me for the cudgel to prove of any effective assistance, so I merely threw it as heavily as I could at his advancing bulk. It struck him just below the knees, elicting a howl of pain and rage, so throwing him off his balance that he lunged full upon me with arms wide stretched to ease his fall. Again, as on the preceding day, I had recourse to earthly tactics, and swinging my right fist full upon the point of his chin, I followed it with a smashing left to the pit of his stomach. And the effect was marvelous, for as I lightly sidestepped, and after delivering the second blow, he reeled and fell upon the doubled up, with pain and gasping for wind. Leaping over his prostrate body, I seized the cudgel and finished the monster before he could regain his feet. And as I delivered that blow, a low laugh rang out behind me, and turning I beheld Taras, Takas, Sola, and 3 of the 4 warriors standing in the doorway of my chamber. And as my eyes met theirs, I was, for the second time, the recipient of their zealously guarded applause.